Have you ever lived in a mouldy, broken down share house or flat in your life? And are you equally as shocked to find out that those same places are often worth millions of dollars?
And what if I told you the government once lowered the prices of houses when there was a crisis? As someone who is Gen Z, I've been told that if I work hard enough and save up all of my pennies, that I can afford to live in Sydney. But the thing is, I see little hope for myself buying a home in Sydney if things continue as they are.
Do you think you'll be able to afford a home within the next 10 years?
Absolutely not, no.
No.
I'm not sure at all.
Very crazy, so I don't think so.
Pennies?
No, probably not.
I really doubt I'll be able to afford a house.
There you have it. But seriously, how did we get here and how exactly did the government fix it? The last time Sydney was in a similar housing crisis, it was just after another huge economic downturn. No, not a pandemic, World War II. The Menzies government, in partnership with the New South Wales state government at the time, injected massive amounts of funding for national housing stock. As population numbers surged as an influx of soldiers returned home and record numbers of migrants moved over to Australia, housing expanded by 50%, with the government contributing 1/4 of the growth of about 1 million homes that were developed in that period. This was also a time when home ownership rates drastically rose from 53% to 70% of the population. But it's not all doom and gloom. In fact, our young future leaders actually think there is a way out of this mess. And I know this because we asked them. The Herald put together a panel where 6 Gen Z leaders weighed in and told us exactly what they think about the housing crisis, just how bad it is, and how they'd fix it. And surprisingly, building more houses is not the only answer. But first, there is somewhere I need to be.
I just travelled 1 hour and 35 minutes to get from North Sydney to Bossley Park.
A suburb nestled between Liverpool and Blacktown, southwest of Parramatta. It took me 1 metro, a train and a bus to get here. For me to travel to Central Station from here, it would take 1 hour and 10 minutes, getting on a bus and then a train. But why does public transport play such a huge role in our housing crisis? Mike Murdoch, the former Federal Infrastructure Secretary, led a review into the state's future transport projects and found that $4 billion a year is required to be set aside by the New South Wales government for transport if it is to catch up with all of Sydney's new development and population growth. People who work in the city but live here in Bossley Park and many other parts of Sydney that are underserviced by public transport look at a 2-hour daily plus commute. And this is a suburb that's well serviced by amenities such as parks, a local leisure centre, and a neighbouring hospital and shopping mall. Most corporate jobs are conducted out of the Sydney city CBD, which means people who don't live in the periphery of the city centre or the suburbs are restricted in their movements around the city. Decentralisation, which means moving workplaces all around Sydney, would increase housing stability as it lessens the impact on certain areas. Areas such as the inner west and the east are increasingly becoming high-density areas where rent and housing prices shoot through the roof because they're a convenient location. It is more than 30 minutes faster to get to Central Station from Kellyville, which is further from the city than from Bossley Park. Just a few suburbs over from Bossley Park with a direct train line to the city is the suburb of Wentworthville.
I'm here on the main street, and as you can see, I'm surrounded by what is a really vibrant Indian community, and that means great food.
This one is the Bombay Masala Sandwich. It's quite popular in the Gujarat and the Mumbai side.
That's very good.
Western Sydney has become the second city hub the state government and lobbyists have been pushing for a good minute now. And you can see why. Migrant populations have transformed multiple areas to be rich with culture and food, which is delicious. Sydney suburbs such as Leichhardt, Balmain and Marrickville were transformed into the suburbs they currently are because of their migrant populations. Cultural hotspots such as Wentworthville, Harris Park and Lakemba are capable of helping with decentralisation if more people choose to move west. Sydney has a chance to house people affordably, but it takes a hell of a lot of innovation and progress, mainly through our governments, to make that happen. Architects have found innovative ways to construct houses and buildings in off-site locations called prefabrication. Modern ways to build in faster and more sustainable ways are already being done in countries such as Sweden and Japan. Our building regulation standards are just falling behind. Not only that, New South Wales needs a $4 billion yearly investment in our transport infrastructure if we are to catch up with our growing population and redistribute our population away from the CBD. The state and federal governments in previous periods of economic decline stepped in to build Aussies proportionally vast amounts of homes. And in turn, those efforts lowered housing prices due to the increase in housing supply. Past generations benefited from this, and if given the opportunity, Gen Z would also act on a housing boom. But our planning and building systems can't afford to just merely build more. DAs are often stalled in local councils, which means developers and builders are waiting around to build more apartments and losing money in the process. In fact, we're losing good builders left, right and centre. And these handbrakes are the critical problem Gen Z is facing in the housing crisis. We are the largest group affected by this crisis, and our young leaders think that there is a way to fix it. So it's time for our current leaders to step up. It's milk.